So thank you for joining us. We are with the LINUS and Dotmatics Group. We are bringing you a session today called Maximize Your Data Impact in 2024, Key Trends and Strategic Insights for Scientific R&D. These trends are based on the LINUS 2024 State of Science report. And we are fortunate to have two members from LINUS to share those insights, as well as a speaker from Dotmatics who will provide additional context and the Dotmatics perspective. I will give a brief intro to the speakers, and then I will hand it off to Natalie to get us started. So first of all, we have Alister Campbell. He is the Vice President of Science and Technology at Dotmatics. He recently celebrated 15 years with the company where he has built the application science team from the ground up. His team bridges the gap between product, technology, and its customers, providing thought leadership, consultancy, and technical prototyping services across the Dotmatics software portfolio. Next, we have Natalie LaFranzo. She is the Vice President of Strategy at LINUS. She is an experienced commercial leader who builds impactful and executable strategies. With a PhD in chemistry from Washington University in St. Louis, her interdisciplinary research spans molecular biology, surface chemistry, and oncology, emphasizing next-generation sequencing and molecular technologies. Erin Legwold is Associate Strategist at LINUS. Erin's passion for discovery and connection has driven her work in research design, data analysis, and insight development at LINUS for over 2 years. Her past experience in social impact research and strategy has inspired her to find opportunities in health, wellness, and life sciences. She manages and maintains the LINUS Research Network to connect with broader scientific communities. Thank you to our speakers for joining us. I will now hand it off to Natalie again. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. And thanks everyone for holding on with us through those technical challenges. We're so happy to be here today to share our insights from the semi-annual LINUS State of Science survey and to learn from what the Dotmatics team is hearing from the industry. So at LINUS, one of our core values is to seek the three sides of the truth. And the format of today's webinar will allow us to do just that. We are planning to present highlights of the data we collected during our semi-annual survey, along with strategic themes and interpretations of the data. For each theme, we'll then hand things over to Alister to share insights from what the Dotmatics team has observed in their work and their engagements. Together, we're excited to provide a holistic view of what's happening in the industry. So not to bury the lead, we saw 3 key predictions in our survey that we'll touch on today. Despite a turbulent end to 2023, as we moved into 2024, we saw pockets of optimism around productivity. Specifically, the industry plans to leverage automation, machine learning, and artificial intelligence to allow teams to accomplish more with less resources. The second adds a drive towards external partnerships and collaboration to continue to enhance this productivity. And finally, we'll touch on how this is allowing for the collection of more data to fuel the studies required to demonstrate progress. So before we dive into the data, I'd like to provide a little bit of background on how the survey was conducted. If you have specific questions on the demographics of the study cohort that we don't happen to touch on, please feel free to add those into the Q&A or chat, and we can address them later in the webinar. So between December 19th, 2023 and January 4th of this year, we surveyed nearly 400 scientists and leaders who represented organizations across multiple geographies in a variety of application areas and levels of responsibility. Specifically related to the geographic breakdown, we had representation from North America, Europe, APAC, Central and South America, and the Middle East and Africa. In our deeper analysis, we'll spend the most time honing in on those top 3 geographies. For organization types, we had just over half from academia, government, and nonprofit institutions, and with the remainder of our demographics representing a variety of for-profit institutions. For some of the data, we'll specifically hone in on those organization breakdowns to provide more granular insights. So let's jump into our first set of insights related to productivity. As I mentioned, with budget cuts and layoffs permeating the life science news throughout 2023, it doesn't come as a surprise that one of the major sentiments we captured is that scientists are looking at 2024 as a year to do more with less. What's exciting is that we found that these challenges are not dissuading the industry from accomplishing their goals, but rather scientists are leading into automation, AI, and external collaborations to retain productivity and predicting that productivity will even increase. And across industries, despite numerous barriers and challenges, confidence is high that target productivity will be reached. And our most confident set of respondents are those in pharma, with 88% citing that they are highly confident very highly confident, or certain that they will meet their productivity goals in 2024. And those that are prioritizing machine learning, AI, and automation feel even more confident in their ability to do so. This year, life science and pharma are ready to do more, even if they're faced with decreased headcount, budget cuts, or technical challenges. But there are still barriers, and hype in this area is one of them. Inflated expectations for machine learning and AI has risen 3 points since we last surveyed in mid-2023, which moved this into the top 5 barriers that scientists are facing. Biopharma and pharma seem especially skeptical about the ability to smoothly integrate AI into their current workflows. Here we see the top 3 barriers that this specific audience selected. For pharma, inflated expectations around the technology and the lack of clean training data for these tools is tied as the second most significant barrier to feeling confident in adoption. So these are 2 areas where vendors or partners can help scientists feel more confident by demonstrating how their tools overcome these barriers. In the interim, to mitigate AI-related barriers, panelists are turning to automation either as a stopgap or a starting point towards more sophisticated tools. By integrating automation, scientists can begin to address reproducibility challenges, hands-on time and workforce challenges, and begin introducing the infrastructure that can be enhanced by AI. When asked unaided what new technologies you intend to purchase, pharma respondents ranked automated systems the highest, with AI ranking second and tried and true spectrometers ranking third. While we won't dive too deeply into the data surrounding purchasing decisions, we have some additional insights we're happy to share one-on-one if there's interest from you or your team. So what does this mean in the real world? I'll now turn things over to Alister to share more about what their team has seen related to the industry's pursuit of productivity.
Thank you, Natalie. Yeah, so from the Dotmatics point of view, we see a very similar pattern, and that AI is definitely one of those levers that many people within the industry are really keen to be able to pull upon. But we also see that there's some barriers on the way to getting there, and it really relies on our organizations putting the fundamentals in place that will allow them to do that. We saw in that previous slide how clean data was a huge portion of that. So what we see is within the industry is a huge shift now to integrating data coming from a variety of systems. These could be these automated systems that are generating huge swathes and volumes of data. So collating that and centralizing it and modeling it in such a way that makes it usable. And then that allows data scientists to start on those journeys of using machine learning and AI. And that's only possible when you've got good, fair data. That's the findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable information. So these fundamentals are key to be able to get towards those really lofty goals of having AI and ML really pushing the needle on research when, at this point in time, we're seeing a reduction in force in many locations. So these fundamentals are what we need and what we see from our customers as the requirements.
Great. Thanks, Alister, for that additional context. It's definitely impactful to see how scientists are thinking about the life science space as a whole. And it's also important to ground that in real world implications. So that's what we'll try to continue to do as we move into our second set of key insights, which is really centered around the role that external partnerships will play in scientists' ability to be able to meet their productivity goals this year. So we've seen that scientists, especially throughout biopharma, are very optimistic about meeting their productivity goals in 2024. And they're not just looking at strengthening their internal capabilities to do that. They are really looking outside of their own organizations for support and for resources. And so across industries, across roles, across types of organizations, really throughout the whole of life science, new partners and collaborations are the second highest priority for this year. So that will be really influential in reaching those internal goals. So what we're seeing here is inclusive of all of our almost 400 scientists that we spoke with. And for 43% of them, those new collaborations and those external partners are a top priority. Again, this was the second highest priority. So the highest was adopting new techniques to collect new data types. And we'll talk more about that data story in a little bit. But that need for new data is most likely related to this prioritization of new partners. And there's really this theme of bringing in external support this year. And so when we look separately at the top 3 priorities for academia and biopharma, we see 2 priorities in common. Number 1 is adopting AI, which Natalie talked to us about. And then the other priority that these 2 groups have in common is the new collaborations and external partners. So really what we want to highlight here is that there will be abundant opportunity for partnerships in 2024 on both the academic side and the biopharma and pharma side. So then when we kind of come back to these barriers that our scientists are thinking will impact the industry this year, this time we're looking at the full cohort, not just biopharma. We see more of those opportunities for really meaningful partnership. And we've identified what these scientists believe to be the top 3 barriers in all of life science today. And you'll see mention of the economy in this hierarchy. We know that there's only so much a partner can do about economic perceptions, but the opportunity really lies in those other 2 barriers, reproducibility issues and complex analysis. So if partners can address that experimental reproducibility, if they can address that support with complex analysis, and if they're able to offer reassurance there, those are the partners that are really going to earn the trust of these scientists. So now, we've looked at scientists' deeper needs from partners and collaborators. We also need to know where to find these scientists who are looking for those partnerships. So we explicitly asked our respondents what kinds of workflows and projects they're looking for external support with. And this was totally unaided. This question was set up in a way that they could write in anything. And in all of those unaided responses, these are the project types that rose to the top: translational and clinical research projects. In translational research, we heard about, things like drug discovery and development, mentions of animal models, genetics-related workflows, a lot of just general translational work. And then in clinical research, we heard mostly about projects that relate to clinical trials. So the big takeaway here is that, we see how important external partners will be this year. And we can also identify the kinds of projects or current barriers that, when external partners address them, they will make that collaboration more impactful. So now what we'll do is move on to the third and final set of insights that we'll share with you today, which I briefly alluded to. And we'll talk about specifically the role of data in the life science ecosystem this year. And what we really want to emphasize is that overall, scientists need more data this year. They are interested in generating and capturing and using more data in their work overall. And we have seen how important partnerships will be this year as well. And so it's important for partners in life science to at least consider that, with this influx of data comes this increasing need to be able to standardize and track and interpret that data to be able to use it effectively. And so in setting up this data story, we should introduce some context first. And we want to highlight that we have historically seen a spike in technology purchase intent at the beginning of every year. You might expect that, when new budgets hit in January, everyone is planning their next technology purchase. And we have conducted these state of science studies twice a year since 2022, and we've never had less than 60% of our respondents in life science saying that they were going to buy new tech at the beginning of the year. It's always at least 60% of them. But in January of this year, we're now seeing that only about half of our scientists are planning to buy new tech. And the reason that we call out that kind of decreased purchase intent for technology is to show how impactful the data that we captured around consumables purchase intent really is. So even though scientists are planning to purchase fewer actual technologies, their purchases of everyday lab products, your reagents and your consumables, will be maintained and really honestly continue to increase this year is what we're seeing. And the combination of those two findings is a signal that these scientists are planning to run more experiments and generate more data and really increase the output from their current technologies that they have. But, that isn't as actionable if we don't know exactly who is leading those decisions and who to talk to. So here we've identified who exactly in the lab is requesting that increase in purchases for everyday lab products. These are the purchasing leaders for those consumables and reagents. In academia, it's either the lab manager or the PI making these decisions. So the action is kind of that in between the bench scientists and higher leadership. They're kind of the liaisons between the two. And then in biopharma, it is actually those bench scientists themselves who are involved in the day-to-day use of these types of products. And they're also leading those purchasing decisions for those products. And so, we see the industry signals that scientists have a need for more data this year, but they've also explicitly told us that that's true. So we specifically asked our panel of experts, why are your purchases of everyday lab products and reagents and consumables increasing? Why are those going up? And the number one reason that they gave us, both academia and biopharma, was that their studies this year are requiring more data collection. So we have really been able to solidify this significant role that increased data access will play in life science in 2024. So let's actually now hear from Alister about how your team is thinking about data in life science right now.
Yeah, thank you. So I think that this is a really common trend, is that scientists are always looking for new technology to capture data that will enable them to do their research better. Everyone has always got their keen eye on the new tech. It's always the exciting thing to go for. But what we also see in the industry is what we see on the left-hand side of this slide here, is that what that can lead to is a real mishmash of data and platforms and systems that make it really difficult for scientists to actually gather some true intelligence and information from that data. It becomes a very convoluted set of disparate systems with no connectivity. So what we are now seeing is a real shift where customers of ours are looking to take these these are very diverse systems that are performing different types of tasks and finding a way to connect them together. So taking this spider's web on the left and turning it into something where you've got systems of record that are interconnected. And that means that scientists can start to use that data in a more meaningful way. So they're generating more data, but they can actually start really using it in the context of the other data that's within their research projects and paradigms. So here we're trying to build a data fabric that really allows us to interconnect different types of systems, different automation systems, data collection systems, into a single data management solution. That means that anyone can get access to the data any of the time. So that's the big challenge, and certainly how we see what we can do at Dotmatics to help our customers is helping that spider's web become a more navigable, interconnected hub and spoke.
Wonderful. All right. So to take us home, we will share a few highlights of the final thoughts that align with the key priorities that we've been talking about today. So first, pharma is confident in their ability to boost productivity. And in 2024, they're looking to leverage the perks of automation to enable this, with the goal of better understanding how AI and ML can be integrated. And we actually found this insight to be particularly interesting and invested in some additional research around biopharma's AI integration strategy. We have a summary of this on our blog, but at a high level, they're looking to both scientific and technical adoption, as well as opportunities to streamline administrative tasks. So it's not just about the scientific implementation of AI and ML, but also removing some of the more tedious or administrative tasks that their team may be spending time on right now. So that's a really important insight into how AI and ML is going to help with productivity. And then related is the need to partner with experts to provide knowledge and support. And that's not just in AI, it's in lots of different research and technical areas. Scientists are looking to establish collaborations and partnerships, especially as we saw related to translational research. So those partners who can help ensure reproducibility, build trust, and alleviate some of these top barriers that the audience is facing are going to be seen as trusted partners and be important parts of this infrastructure. And then finally, as we heard from Erin, all of this productivity and these partnerships are resulting in a boom of data. And while technology purchases may be down compared to last year, there's a growth in everyday lab products and consumables because scientists are collecting more data from more studies. And here again, partners who can support this work, the breadth of data that will be generated as vendors, suppliers, or consultants will all be very important to maintaining this infrastructure. And so with that, we'll let Alister wrap things up for us.
Thank you. And yeah, just to build upon that, I think, and on my last statement as well, is thinking around this idea around data, our systems composability, especially as we are speaking here about academia and biopharma and predominant, but actually we know that what people are researching, the modalities that they're working in are becoming more and more diverse. And this is obviously adding to this explosion of data and this complexity of data. So being able to work within the realms of composable components where you can join a data management solution, building workflows from it, integrating all of these purchasing decisions, these automated systems, and then bringing that into some sort of management of the materials, these different multimodal materials that are being generated into a set of systems that are interconnected becomes the thing that enables that to happen. And then that is all the components that are required that really feed into all of these multimodal world of formulated products, antibodies, enzymes, small molecules, RNA therapies, vaccines, and small. So all of these different types of materials all require this fundamental. And we think there's a real shift to people to understanding that having a truly composable system that allows that management is going to be vital for them to be successful this year and onwards. Ryan.
Great. Thank you, speakers. We do have a couple of questions. I think this first one is for Alister, so I'll let him handle it. So when it comes to AI and machine learning, can you explain what big challenges may come up when implementing and scaling these innovations?
Yeah, I think the challenges come in multiple factors. I think we touched on data being number one, quality of data. Everyone knows the mantra of garbage in and garbage out. So that's really important. So being able to trust AI comes from trusting the data that you build your training sets from initially. Also, validating the results afterwards as well. So scientists really truly trusting it because they can see the context and the rationale that some sort of AI or ML algorithm has used to generate it. So the reasons why it was predicted becomes very important. And then further downstream, there's also options of where the scientists are worried about things like intellectual property as well, like who owns the IP from that. So there's concerns. I'm sure those will be addressed, and that comes into the training set question as well. If it's your data, it's your information you're learning from. The IP lives within you, but if you're outside of that, who owns it? Those are definitely concerns that people have that we've been hearing.
Great. Yeah, I know that's on everyone's mind, so thanks for addressing that. And then we got our second one here. You mentioned automation as a key tool for streamlining workflows. Can you share any examples for how labs are using automation for more efficiency? I don't know who wants to take that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Erin, please jump in on you. Sorry.
I'll go after you.
Okay, I'll give a real world example of one that I know that we're working with just now is taking some tasks that are performed within the laboratory where scientists are asking. So this is the collaboration aspect. Often we see workflows where scientists are creating materials, they're performing some activities, and then they have some downstream tests and activities that they want their colleagues to perform and get some results back. But being able to automate that flow of data from a request through to a transaction, through to a result being generated, and a report and something returned back to the original person, those types of workflows are vital and they're really ubiquitous, regardless of the type of research you're doing. This idea of I have a request, I have a colleague or a collaborator who can perform that for me, and having a really efficient delivery mechanism that automates the testing and the results delivery, that type of thing is super important now. We see it a lot. We're using it within our LumaLab Connect platform now. It's something that we're being asked about a lot. So Erin, over to you. I'm sure you've got your own perspective.
Yes to all of that. We've definitely done operational automation, administrative tasks. We've also seen automation of the actual workflows in terms of automated robotics. So we're hearing about things like automated liquid handling and plate counting. A lot of these scientists we're finding are automating workflows and different lab tasks in the short term to obviously increase speed, increase efficiency, decrease human error. But we saw in our kind of purchase intent, automation has replaced AI as the top technology people are looking to purchase. So to us, this signals that in the long term, automated workflows might make it easier to then transition to integrating AI in the lab as well. So we're seeing them kind of take on this role of a transitional tool as well.
And I see another question here. You may have just addressed it. You mentioned that the purchase of automation systems will outstrip that of AI. Do you have any insight into whether this is because AI is seen as less important because it hasn't lived up to the hype, or because scientists have what they need, or something else?
I don't think it's that it's less important. I think scientists might be realizing that their labs need to take certain steps before AI can be effectively integrated. You can't just wake up one day and decide to integrate AI into all of your lab processes. It kind of needs to be a step-by-step process. And we think that one way that scientists are pushing themselves down that line is to integrate automation first and make that AI integration, again, down the road, a little bit easier.
Yeah, I really agree with that, Erin. I think it's in the sort of crawl, walk, run mantra, right? So automation allows you to do that initial steps. You might be running with with the AI later on, but you've got to do this fundamentals first. And I think the automation part is seen as key to be able to do it.
Yep, sounds like we're aligned. That's good. Great. Well, I don't see any other questions here, but I think that the presentation was fantastic. Thank you to our speakers. I do want to invite everyone to take a look at this slide, This Before You Now. Dotmatics does have a few summits coming up next month where you can learn more about all these topics and more. Some of our new R&D technology will be unveiled, so that's very exciting. We've got a virtual option. We have one in London, and we also have one in South Korea. So scan the QR code and you can see more information on all of those. We also invite you to read the State of Science report that we covered a little bit in today's presentation. And if you would like to participate in the next State of Science survey, there is also a link there as well. And like I said, we will be sending out the presentation to all webinar registrants, so you can review this at your leisure, and we will also be sending out the slides as well, so you can take a look at those. So once again, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to our speakers. This was super insightful. I hope that everyone learned a lot and you take away this back to your labs. All right, everyone have a great day. Thank you.